Hello everyone, welcome back to the Aurelia city in City Skylines. In the last couple of episodes, we stayed in the core of the city, where we did the canal valley with lots of high-density vertical builds, and also we reworked the main train station. Finally made it look prepared for the first-person views. As I promised, today we are moving to an outer area of the city where I built an interesting project which is covered by the spoiler box here. I'm sorry, I no longer have the save file with the before situation that I could record for the intro, but at least you have a better idea where we are on the map. This is the shot back from episode 53, such a long time ago. In this place, we built a huge interchange for the future expansion of the city. But as the plans for this place evolved, I wanted to rework it and do something else. It's going to be a different looking highway exit using all the new mods that we currently have. So the node controller, the intersection marking tool, and also the color features of the network skins too. And also we are going to build another little project, the spillways for the second smaller dam back from episode 44. So let's go. Alright, so I started by, demolishing just everything that used to be in this area. So there used to be this roundabout and some kind of just main roads going into it, even from like the lake area, which is just not going to happen. I'm not going to do any kind of road connections there from now on. So I'm just going to put like a different kind of main road, and then I'm going to experiment with some connections that I would like to have here. So if you guys saw the live streams, then you do remember that I was doing this maybe on 3 different streams. I was just experimenting with so many different possible combinations of roads and techniques, right? And especially with the node controller, because that's very important. You can see, for example, over here that I tried these particular sets of roads, and then I have to kind of connect them to these Shuto expressways, highways that are going into that main interchange area. So that was not exactly working, and the reason for that, for these particular roads, why they are not working. Well, if you are going to have an intersection in City Skylines or any kind of curved road, then vehicles will always cut corners, and they are just going to cut corners more severely or more noticeably when they are going very fast. You can definitely see that in the vanilla game, for example, when you have, I don't know, ambulances or, fire trucks or something, when they are like really cutting corners, when they are going into intersections or just highway curves, especially highway curves, because they are going super fast on them, right? So that was a big issue, because all the cars that were going on those outermost lanes were just going pretty much on the sidewalks, at least like with one wheel, right? And that was just looking very, very bad. So with this kind of experimentation right here, I was just not sure how that's going to look like, because I was just more concerned with the shape of the intersection and not really with the behavior of the traffic, right? So that's kind of important before you do these kinds of things, these kinds of detailed intersections. Definitely make sure first that vehicles are going to go through the entire project as you want them to, because otherwise it's just going to be really painful to discover that after you do all the detailing, and you will have to just rebuild it, right? But anyway, this is very important discovery that I did here on the live stream. So I wanted to maybe experiment with different colored lanes inside of the intersection, but later I realized, why not extend that even to the roads going from the intersection? And right now with the intersection marking tools, you can only do that, with intersections, obviously, and you cannot do that for the lanes. But for the lanes, you can actually use the colored networks. That's something I'm going to do later. And you can put them just on top of the lanes on those existing roads. Obviously, it's much better if the roads are flat. So it's basically just, I think I already did that, didn't I? For the roundabouts, for the buses, I think. Oh yeah, some couple of episodes back in the suburbs, I was using those colored decorative asphalt networks for doing that bus lane on those roundabouts. And I also mentioned that I want to do it even inside the intersections, because it's going to just create much better like a color transition from the intersections and the lanes. Well, there is not going to be any color transition because it's the same technique. But unfortunately, when you are doing these kinds of recolorings with the network skins, it's going to recolor the actual texture of the road. But if you are going to use the intersection marking tool, the solid shape, the filler, and you're going to just recolor it to some different color, it's gonna act as a decal, which means it's just going to be a color, like a layer of color on top of the original texture, and you can just fiddle with opacity to kind of show the original texture, but you can never make it the same as with the network skins recoloring, right? So there's always going to be that color transition showing through. If the original color on the texture was completely flat and was just a single, black color, the asphalt color, then it would be possible. You would just need to crunch the numbers, I suppose, and calculate what would be the color value between the RGB and the opacity value. I'm not sure about these expressions here, but it could be possible. But since the asphalt has some sort of a non-uniform texture, there are the grains in the asphalt and stuff, then it's always going to look different, right? So eventually I decided that I'm only going to use the technique that I used before with the network skins, decorative networks, even on the lanes inside the intersection and outside the intersection. All right, so that's just going to be a quick explanation. Now, while I was doing that, I was changing the shape of the actual interchange, the highway interchange, and I just made it more compact and made all the different roads kind of go closer and more above and under the main highway road, right? So it's now much smaller, and I can afford to do this exit intersection much closer, which is going to just have more space for some landscaping, further away from the river. So that's more preferable. Now, this is the final selection of roads that I'm going to use for this intersection. Now, these are the highways. I'm really sorry, I'm not sure what's the name of these highways. I'm going to try to link them in the video description because they are looking very nice. I think I was using them a couple of times before for the outer highways around the city, but I was not really mentioning them too much. But this is the first time I'm properly using them, and they are super nice. They come in this very clever system where if you are going to put traffic lights on an intersection, it's actually going to create an intersection. And if you are not going to do traffic lights, if you're going to disable traffic lights with the traffic manager, it's going to do the median, the continuous median through the thing. So you can actually use them as highways, which is really good. They are really, really convenient. And what's really important with these, they have shoulders. So you can have all these cars just turning on the outermost lanes, and they are not going to go into the curbs that much. You can actually just have one road that has the shoulder, and the different road doesn't need to. So for example, in here I'm using asymmetrical 4+3, and the 4 doesn't have a shoulder, but it's connecting into, I think, a 3-lane road, which does have a shoulder, so that's going to be fine. And the cars are slightly going to go from their lanes, maybe even on these lines that I'm painting here with the intersection marking tools, but it's not going to look that terrible. You can kind of see that over here. What does help with this problem is obviously lowering the speeds of the vehicles, right? So with the traffic manager, you can either lane by lane, for example, you can improve or just decrease the speeds for the vehicles on the neighboring connections. Now, the reason I should probably have mentioned right at the start why I decided to ditch the idea of an interchange in this area and went for an intersection is very simple. I just really wanted to build like a properly detailed intersection with the intersection marking tools, node controller, and later even this technique with the network skins. On an interchange, it wouldn't exactly be all that possible or that all that pronounced. So I really just wanted to build like a big intersection. I haven't done that in Aurelia yet, so why not? It's probably not like the super best solution for this particular area. It's kind of the traffic in here is actually not going to be all that terrible, so even much smaller traffic solution might have worked here, but I was just having fun really building this project, so that's kind of all the reason that I really need it. So this is the time when I started experimenting with all these different colors in here. So I finally decided to do the color system so that the lanes, they are going to be colored according to the destination, I think. Yeah. So for example, if you are looking at this direction, then the turn right, the road right, going right from the intersection is going to be green. The road going into the highway is going to be red, this one, and the one going left is going to be blue, right? So there's kind of a system in that. Now you might ask, why do I have these specific lanes in here? Like for example, turning into the highway, why does it have 3 lanes with the red color? And it's because on the main interchange there are going to be 3 ways to go. You can go either to the downtown, to the island, or back outside of the city. So I just decided to already split the traffic right before this intersection. So people are going to choose their lanes before they enter the intersection, and they cannot choose them, further down the road. I'm later going to put solid lines on all 3 or between those 3, right? So, again, it's just like looking good, It's just an opportunity to do it asymmetrically, this intersection, which is just going to be, looking much more interesting. So again, I'm just having fun really with this project. Don't really look into it that much. Don't really try to think of it as some kind of a properly calculated traffic solution. It's just really me having fun with all these different techniques. But at least I still did provide some capacity increasing measures in this area, which is exactly this like a bypass road, because the entrance into the intersection also has 3 lanes, if you think about it, because just like you have 3 lanes or 3 different directions when exiting the intersections, you obviously need to have the same number for entering, because you have 3 different directions, like I said, from the city, from outside of the map, and from the island. Now there's a bit of a problem, because if you wanted to go on the intersection turning left and you arrived from the downtown, then you would need to the road that goes into the intersection has 3 lanes, and you are going to enter from the rightmost lane, and you kind of need to merge all the way to the left. And there's not exactly all that much space on that entering road to the intersection, so I decided that if you are going to arrive from the downtown, you will be able to take that bypass road, which is going to just put you right on the left turn, I suppose, without even entering or merging with the other traffic. Again, it's just creating some kind of an interesting element. It's allowing me to play with these very nice looking tunnel entrances. By the way, this is the same, this ramp, this 1-lane ramp with the shoulder, is exactly the same pack of roads that these bigger highways come from, right? Again, I'm going to try to link them in the video descriptions because they are super, super convenient to work with. And all these different transitions, all the same roads that I'm using here, I'm also treating with the intersection marking tool so that we have some kind of splits or merges into more or fewer lanes there. I also needed to somehow end these colored lanes, so I decided to do it with these cuts into the shape. So I finally decided to use just these 3 stripes. So they are going to be getting smaller and smaller, kind of just disappearing from that main color. And on the entrances into these lanes, they are going to be just much shorter. They are going to end pretty much right after the intersection. But before the intersections, on the lanes entering the intersection, they are going to be much longer, right? So this blue one, for example, again, that's right after it, because cars are going to be exiting the intersection. But on the next ones, I don't think I even showed it in the time-lapse, but you are going to see that in the cinematics, how certain lanes entering the intersections just have the colors for much longer. So this is exactly the input road into the entire intersection from the highway interchange. And as you can see, we have these 3 ramps that are connecting together. And like I said, if you are entering the intersection from the interchange from the right, and you want to go on the intersection to the left, then you would just have to merge through 2 lanes. And the space is just not enough for cars to do that. It would create all kinds of traffic problems. Not really in this particular case, because the traffic is just not going to be that heavy, but I really just wanted to play with that, like a higher capacity design. Also, I was doing this on the live stream, and chat kind of made me do it with this lavender color, these kinds of solid shapes here on the wedges there. So that's exactly the reason why I did that, but I kind of like it. I really wanted to, why am you already using the different colors for the lanes, then why not just experiment with different colors, more different colors for these wedges. And in here, for example, orange, because I can, right, with the intersection marking tool. So that was already done. That was all completely done. And we are now going to move to building the spillways. I'm later going to return to detailing the terrain around the intersection, but now I really wanted to do the spillways to have a better idea how the terrain is going to be here, because it's kind of clear that I will have to do some landscaping in here anyway. So that's kind of going to influence the detailing of the actual intersection as well. So if you remember back in episode 44, like I said, we did that smaller dam that's holding all the water in that upper lake. I was even talking about the upper lake in the previous Aurelia episode, if you remember. And that smaller dam never had any kind of emergency spillways like these. The big dam on the big river does have them, and they are actually having water flowing through, because that kind of felt like a nice, thing to do back then. But these kinds of spillways are going to be just for decoration right now. I don't really want to have water flowing through them, because I don't really want to disturb the water level on the upper level, and it's just going to look fine because they are for emergencies anyway. This is kind of like a tiny little glimpse of some future landscaping changes that I am going to do on the map, because the upper lake, this lake will get much bigger than this. But right now I just wanted to create it so that the landscaping is a bit more convincing when it comes to just connecting the lake to these spillways, right? And on the main river down there, I created like a little bay where the spillways are ending. By the way, this little hill right on the side of the island city, I just completely demolished it and got rid of it. We are going to see that hill in 2 episodes, I think. We are going to build like a nice little project in there. Actually, it's not going to be little at all. It's going to be quite huge. And we are going to continue doing some landscaping in there. So don't worry, it's not going to stay like this. It will see some significant changes. By the way, doing these kinds of spillings with the water after these landscaping changes, that's always a huge headache, because the water is eventually going to kind of bounce back from all the empty areas, and it's just going to flood into the city. So I had to do like a lot of pumps on the shores of the upper lake, and just kind of control it for quite a long time actually before it completely stabilized, right? But it was no big deal. It eventually came to its senses. So some kind of detailing at the ends of these canals, technically canals, but obviously spillways in here, and some kind of retaining walls that I'm later going to cover with some stones and different kind of cliff ploppable surfaces, and obviously trees, lots of trees. I finally decided to get rid of that tunnel, little tunnel under the highway, because it didn't really make sense. I eventually decided to just use the elevated roads above, and this one is just going to be on the surface. By the way, again, I have to say one more time that these highways are just absolutely amazing, because the elevated path, or the elevated mode, is comes with this like a retaining wall underneath it, with like a concrete block underneath it. It's actually not elevated at all. But if you want to have it elevated with like pillars, proper pillars, then you need to use the bridge, the actual bridge type. But just the elevated one with the fine road tools, for example, you only going to get that concrete base. And that's absolutely perfect for me, because I can use these for exactly these purposes, these kinds of highway, like underpasses or something. That's absolutely perfect for this purpose. So again, I'm going to try to link that highway system in the video description, because it's just great. It's just absolutely great. It's not exactly super futuristic looking, so it's looking more like realistic. It even has the guardrails on the sides, which is not necessarily all that super nice for some urban highways, but definitely some countryside highways, it's absolutely perfect. And it's just a single network, which is also very beneficial for saving, network limits if you are going to do some extensive highway networks all around the map. One more thing that I had to do was somehow sort out this just this connection over this little part, this little branch of the river here, because we just had this messy pillars everywhere. By the way, I also did pillars right in front of the spillways. I decided to do the pillars so that they are aligned to the walls of the spillways. It obviously makes sense that if I did some kind of pillars right in the middle of the way of the water, it would just kind of not work if this would actually work in real life. But it's just going to be more convincing, it's just going to look much better. And the same thing I did in here. I also did pillars, kind of like a combined pillars for the upper and lower road, and just did them with procedural objects like that, and it's looking much better. Unfortunately, maybe in some cinematics, because I'm not really sure if I recorded the cinematics right when I finished the building and deleted some of the pillars, maybe you're gonna see some pillars back. That's like a reoccurring problem in a lot of the cinematics, even in Altengrad, where some pillars are just popping back because they always kind of do. And even with the new Move It update, they sometimes do, so I'm not really sure. Lately, I've been trying to just move the pillars underground when they are already there, and that seems to be working, but not exactly for all pillars. For some of these smaller ones, it's fine, but for some large pillars, it's just not doing anything. I put some dummy traffic on the intersection, as you can see. I put some cube houses on all ends of this main road. Right now, it's not really going anywhere, but just so we can observe the workings of the intersection, I did it, and it's looking really great. It's actually very satisfying. I think that later, when I'm going to do some proper connections for both sides of this intersection, I'm probably going to try to really increase the traffic that goes through it so that we can appreciate it a bit more, right? Right now, it's already looking great. As you can see, there are the lanes, the colored lanes that I was talking about, how they are extending much further away from the intersection on the entrance roads, and the roads that are exiting the intersection are just ending the colors right away because they are not needed anymore. I finally decided to just do the stripes, like a thick stripes with some generous spacings between them inside the intersection. I didn't really want to do the chevrons in here because they just don't really align perfectly for these super custom, complicated, non-symmetrical intersections. So this eventually turned out looking good. There is also a light rail line, again, just not going anywhere, kind of just placed it here to have a better idea what I can afford to do with placing the trees and doing the landscaping. But it's going to be a light rail line. That's the one going over, actually, that small dam. And it's going to go into like a very nice suburb, kind of like a residential, disconnected, planned residential development that I'm going to do in the next episode. That one actually turned out looking really good, and I can't wait to show you that in the next Aurelia episode, right? So that was this project was pretty much a preparation for that. Later, I would also like to continue working in this place. I would like to continue working right next to the island city. I already mentioned that I have a project in mind for that area, and we are also going to finally turn our attention to the river island. And I'm going to finish that in one single episode, actually. So that's going to be quite interesting, and it's going to nicely fill this general area and make it look much more complete. Anyway, guys, that is going to be all for today's episode. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video and you want to help the channel, help the video reach more people, then definitely put a thumbs up underneath the video, write some comment or share it. Also, you can subscribe to the channel if you're new here, and if you want to directly support the channel, you can become a channel member like some of you already did, and I really thank you for that. Anyway, guys, that's going to be all. Thank you for watching again. Take care, and goodbye.